Somos agua, somos tierra, somos fuego, somos viento. Esto es nuestro rezo, sí. Aquí, Chicano, Mexica Connection. Roco Pachucote en la Cali. Desde los barrios de Tenochtitlán, México, Los Ángeles, Califastlán, Kiba, Meteo.
Se estudiaron movimientos de los 4 elementos. Se tomaron los momentos para crear estos centros. Que los tiempos ni los vientos podrán con estos templos. Que no vengan con inventos, falsedades y con cuentos. Somos descendientes de una gente inteligente, utilizando siempre mente sabia como serpientes. Sabía toda la gente que no hay nada diferente. Lo que ve, lo que se siente, espíritu presente. Fue invocado, llamado del otro lado, porque todo antepasado lo dejó aquí bien grabado. Que no fuera olvidado y que fuera estudiado. Así todo lo creado sea elevado. Somos gente de ciencia honrando creación. Ciencia y religión siempre tuvo conexión. Y México, el ombligo con la luna. Como esta ciudad, no hay ninguna.
Ciudad celestial, corazón del mundo. Ahí es donde nació mi pensamiento profundo. Águila nopal, la voz del jaguar. Te escribo mis letras con pluma de quetzal. Mi mensaje es antiguo, te canto medicina. Yo soy como una espina, difícil de quitar. Yo soy como una rola de maldita vecindad. Enlocando la gente, te abro tu mente. Yo soy descendiente de esta tierra mexicana. Aunque yo vengo del otro lado de Tijuana. La L, la A, Califastlán. Y los que no me crean, mi sangre es mi prueba.
Plazo Camadli, Ipalemowani, El Hu en la Calico Rocco, Tonali, from ancestors who are still with us, guide us, unite us, uplift us through a spiral flow, mind, body, and soul, connected con elementos, luna y sol, from the future we flow, trascendiendo tiempo como los templos.
Ometeut, Omesiwa, Ometeut, Omesiwa, Ometeut, Omesiwa. Aquí estamos, estuvimos y estaremos. Somos la semilla que plantaron los abuelos. Como pidió Cuauhtémoc, pasaron de padres a hijos el saber de los ancestros. Por los 4 rumbos propagaron este rezo. Pueblos indígenas, guardianes del tiempo. Cuenta de los días anunciaba este momento. Aquí y ahora, este es nuestro tiempo. El sol que nos alumbra, sol de movimiento. Somos agua, somos tierra, somos fuego, somos viento. Y estamos caminando en unidad y movimiento. La gente de la tierra ha llamado a la acción y por todo el mundo se ha escuchado su voz. Afila la palabra, cultiva la esperanza. Abajo y a la izquierda nuestros corazones cantan. Para todos la luz, para todos la paz. Por nuestra madre tierra y toda la humanidad. Mexicas y chicanos, juntos caminamos. El camino rojo, el saber del toltecayo. Somos flor y canto, sonido digital. Músicas nuevas, raíz ancestral. Aceptamos la misión, somos cantores de paz. Tlacuilos grafiteros, danzantes de ciudad. Somos flor y canto, sonido digital. Llamando a los hermanos, es el tiempo de unidad. Es el tiempo de unidad. Meteo.
Somos gente de ciencia honrando creación. Ciencia y religión siempre tuvo conexión. Y México, el ombligo con la luna. Como esta ciudad, no hay ninguna.
Ometeut, Omesiwa, Ometeut, Omesiwa, Ometeut, Omesiwa. Aho, aho. Ometeut.
Emily Pike, only 14 years old. She was just a baby. She's from the San Carlos.
The one with the bees is last, okay? Like towards the end.
Yo, LA Natives Podcast, Las Aslan Natives Podcast. What is cracking? Zero.
Yo. What's up, community? How you doing? LA Natives. Here we are once again. Brought my medicine, planting seeds in your head again.
It's a crazy week, bro. Like, Los Angeles announced that ICE is in our city.
Wow.
And people are being deported. It's fucking brutal.
And scary. I would imagine that a lot of people in our community are, you know what? I think I seen a post on social media where they were in Alhambra and a group of activists caught them and they were just like bullhorning them.
They were treating them like shit.
Exactly.
Which, well deserved.
Right. Well, we're in confusing times right now. And I think, things are starting to escalate in time where it's like it's moving so fast. Things are changing so fast where
even the president in his the State of the Union address that just happened, I think yesterday.
Yeah.
He called that lady Pocahontas, bro. Like, how disrespectful is that?
Yeah, to all natives. You know what I mean? And it's interesting to see a president be so
Just so racist.
spiteful. Like I don't know. Usually those positions require a sense of as they say in their Senate, decorum, and he's, the Speaker of the House is trying to get decorum in the House, and yet the president is the one that's kind of poking at a senator, calling her Pocahontas because she wanted to claim some indigeneity. Whether it's true or not true, it's everybody's individual road to find that out. If it's not true, eventually someone will find out and you'll be exposed for it. But if it is a drop of blood that you're clinging to and that you feel connected to, then you run with that as well. So I just want to say what up to the chat. If anybody's there, I usually don't even look over there because I don't have
the chat is lit right now.
Nice.
But yeah, here's a clip of what we're talking about. Let me just pull it up. Here we go.
With no end in sight, the United States has sent hundreds of billions of dollars to support Ukraine's defense, with no security, with no anything. Do you want to keep it going for another 5 years? Yeah. You would say Pocahontas says yes.
That's not the forum to kind of, do that.
Bro, come on, Zero.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. It's and then using
it's like, and then people laughing.
Yeah, and using native, the native
to get you views.
The native people have suffered a lot through, generations and generations of genocide.
But let's go back on why he's calling her Pocahontas, because apparently one of these politicians claimed that she was of native blood.
Elizabeth Warren.
Yeah, Elizabeth Warren. Yeah. And from what I heard, it comes to find out she's not native. So politicians use that card all the time, right, to get some fucking points.
That's been happening for a long time. People claiming to be indigenous in that way, and when you claim to be indigenous and get benefits from it, that's kind of different than claiming your indigeneity just because it makes your soul and your spirit feel at one. That's different. I know that when I claim my indigeneity, I'm not going after government resources. I don't want to be under any government programs that give me money because of my indigeneity. My indigeneity goes far beyond benefits. It's my spirit communicating to itself on its origins. That's what my indigeneity means to me. So, some people, exploit it and, maybe hear a story or two and claim it. And it takes more than that. It's not just having it in your blood. It's actually practicing the ways and believing in the connections that you build with the instructions that were left by elders from thousands of years ago. So, that's what it is to be indigenous. So when they do that, and then you got a president making fun of someone who's maybe clinging to it. We don't know the story behind it. And like you said, and it turned out that she's not.
But, the thought matters, I guess, Elizabeth Warren, right? Like,
if she's going to do good things for indigenous people in poor countries, we got to remember that people that come from the reservations of Turtle Island are not well off. Not all of them are well off. There's very, very, very few. There's some that have, some wealth and they, deal with their tribes in their
They have
own
the casinos and shit.
Yeah, but there's not.
I'm talking. These people are worth hundreds of millions of dollars.
But
a few of the natives. Yeah.
But they're not that many, and there's way more poverty.
Yeah.
And there's so much poverty that a lot of
It's a misconception that like San Manuel Indian Reservation, people automatically think everyone's wealthy there because there's a goddamn casino there.
No, I don't. I mean, there's who knows how they govern that money, But when it comes to business, there's always those things. But there are a lot of poor reservations, very, very poor reservations, and in those poor reservations, their moms and dad. This is where is a very important topic to understand how indigenous people, original people, native people have been gotten treated. And if you put a contrast to what happens to us as being, Mexican, of Mexican descent, and some of us half Native American, half Mexican, there's a lot of that. You'll realize that all of us kind of deal with CPS and the removal of the children from the home. There's a lot of that in Indian country. And for small things, you know what I mean? Like parents, habitually arguing, or maybe the dad is an alcoholic, but the mom isn't. Or for somehow, some way, the state gets paid a lot of money to remove Native American children from their home. You can look it up. If you look it up, you'll see.
Well, look, the homie Ironhide says, I've met some natives that get $30,000 checks every month from San Manuel, and their kids all got checks too.
Yeah.
Those stories exist. Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
But see, that's the
everybody
misconception,
does.
though, right?
Not
People from the
everybody.
outside looking in, they think everyone gets these checks.
Yeah, no, not everybody. Some people go, look, the problems on the reservations of Turtle Island are drug addiction, which is, usually methamphetamine, or if not fentanyl now, and suicide. And also, third, is removal from the home, removal from the parents.
So who are the natives that get these checks of hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions, to provide these casinos and the lavish lifestyles? I would think it's the ones that are like blood lineage of like the tribal leaders.
Yeah.
And I guess the government identified who they were and figured, hey, we'll give them the checks because they were...
Well, I don't know if the government gives them money. I think it's the business that's generated on their land, which
Oh,
is the
okay.
casino.
So
the government.
So who are these natives that are making hundreds of millions of dollars?
Well, they're very few. And look, I've been to reservations when I did the ceremony of the Peace and Dignity Run, when I was able to go to reservation, running the staffs from Alaska to their sacred destination. But I was able to spend the night there, meet some people, meet the tribal council, whatever. Not on a personal level, but just by as an observant and being a participant in the ceremony, because we stopped off in these places. I mean, it's not a very big population. So if it's not a very big population, they do get broken off a lot of money, but it's not very many of them. You know what I mean? And then most of that money gets reinvested back into the casino or whatever, because they have their habits.
They do. But, if I was
Like
getting...
they gamble.
Yeah. It's like, if you were getting $30,000 a month from your reservation, that's a lot of money, Zero. You wouldn't just be blowing it. You would be investing a lot of that shit, because that's like capital to create and make shit happen. And I would assume with them, they probably all got together and made a casino.
Maybe. I don't know. I don't know the story.
I don't know the story, yeah.
But the point is that that's very small percentage of reservations that function in that manner.
But you're aware there's a misconception of like people thinking everyone on the reservation is wealthy.
Yeah. But not everyone is that way. Not every reservation has that luxury. Most of them are very poor, and most of them get their children taken away from them. And most of them end up in a group home, right? A foster care.
And
which is like what happened to this young girl, right?
Yeah, man, we're gonna be playing.
You know, she's
Rest in peace,
yeah,
Emily Pike, right?
Emily Pike.
Let me get the clip set up, but
you know, most
it's
of them,
shameful, Donald Trump, for you to fucking sit there and just that term Pocahontas is such an insulting term, and it's just rejuvenating the right and that crowd to even, I guess, be glad that natives are being made fun of. It's a weird crowd, bro. Like this political crowd, and
well, you just don't use it. It's not. It's kind of like saying, you know, oh, look at the wetback over there or something like that. You know, it's for Native people because they've struggled.
No.
They've struggled so
but
much.
It's
This is
just
what
as
we're
insulting,
highlighting.
though. But yeah, but if Trump said, "Hey, wetback," he would have got a lot of backlash. But he said
he would be-
Pocahontas, and no one gives a fuck.
But he would be the one that would say that. You know, he would say wetback or, you know, the N word with the hard R. You know, it's.
I use
he
that
would
term
be the one-
Pocahontas to me is the same level of disrespect.
Kind of.
Yeah.
Kind of. Yeah, kind of. But he's doing it to spite a specific person, a senator that said that she was, and it turned out that she wasn't. So, I mean, I'm not sure how deep he's going with it in terms of the Native part of things. But the point is that Native people we cannot forget how much all of us who are Native have suffered. And recently, there was an atrocity that happened to a 14-year-old Native American girl. And the point of me bringing it up today on LA Natives is because no one really is bringing it up.
I haven't even seen it on YouTube.
I didn't see it on the news or
It's
any
probably
of that
one
stuff.
of the most vicious attacks and vicious, brutal murders in a while, bro.
And what we need to pay attention to is what they did to her. What they did to this child. And it didn't get the press that if this would have happened to someone who is Caucasian, this would be a story. There would be a manhunt. There would be, you know, every 24 hours they'd be giving an update. But if we need to pay attention to what the fuck happened there and try to share this information out with people who live in that region in that time, because people who do this kind of stuff are very dangerous people. And for some reason, people didn't feel like this deserved attention. So we'll listen to the story and then, you know.
Baby, she's from the San Carlos Apache Nation. Pike, only 14 years old. She was just a baby. She's from the San Carlos Apache Nation. She was recently murdered. Her body was found outside of Globe, Arizona. Not only was Emily unalived, but whoever did this to this little girl dismembered her body, cut her into pieces, put her in garbage bags, and threw her away like trash. Again, she was just a baby, 14 years old. And what I don't understand is how this story hasn't made national news. The mainstream media isn't saying anything about what happened to Emily. There is somebody out there who is a murderer, who dismembers people's bodies, and there's hardly any type of mainstream media attention. And the only time I see Emily's name come up, if it's from people in the Native community who are trying to bring attention to what happened to Emily. If this was a child from a middle-class community living out in the suburbs, this would be national news, and there would be a nationwide manhunt for whoever did this to that individual. It seems to me, because Emily is Native, that her life just doesn't really matter. And what little media attention I do see on Emily, she's described as a runaway. And I have a problem with that because it feeds into the stereotype that all Natives are dysfunctional. Emily should have been reported as missing, not as a runaway. And this is part of the MMIW crisis, is authorities don't take these cases seriously. It sends the message that we don't matter, that the lives of our children, that our communities just aren't all that important, that the only good Indian is a dead Indian. And if that's the case, and the mainstream media doesn't want to cover these stories, that means that we have to do our part to make sure that Emily Pike's name is never forgotten. We need to demand justice for her. We need to continue to work on making sure that people are aware of the MMIW crisis, and we need to protect our children in our communities. We have to do it because the government's not going to do it. The mainstream media has shown that they don't care about the welfare of our children. So it's incumbent on us to do our part. So fuck the corporate media. Let's make sure Emily Pike's name is not forgotten. And much love and respect to the San Carlos community.
Crazy, yo.
I thought
that was shocking to me.
The most not the most interesting thing.
And a killer's on the loose, just like how Isn't She Lovely is saying on the chat.
Exactly, bro.
And they don't give a shit. They could.
No, it's not a killer, bro. It's somebody that took some person, a child, and cut her up. Like really, literally cut her legs off and cut her hands off.
Yeah, that's not a killer. That's a monster right there.
Bro, and she was 14. And it's not in the news. It's not in a place where people are talking about it like nonstop.
And let's be real.
Because
let's be real. He was trying to be safe, talking about, yeah, if this was in the suburbs. What he really means, if it was a white girl,
Yep.
a black girl,
Yep.
or even a Mexican girl or a Latina girl,
yes.
in the suburbs that was living this normal life, it would be national fucking news.
Right. No, well, if they were, no. I think if they were white, yeah. But the other people, like black people and Chicano people and Mexican people, I don't know if that's the whole point, that the brother's bringing up, is that since it was a Native American girl and maybe she ran away, because I heard that I think another part of the story is that she's a part of a group home, which is why I brought up the point that they remove these children and put them into these group homes. And they make a lot of money off of them. They make a lot of money of removing children from Native American families, specifically Native American families. There's there's very strict, to keep a family together is very difficult in those places, in my opinion, because there's a lot of CPS involvement. There's a lot of those group homes that foster care, that, when Superman comes, when he came to perform, he said he was in a foster home. So this is a part of Native American culture in the res. Like, they need to take your children away from you, mess them up, so that they either don't want to be Native, they don't want to, that reminds them of some negative stuff, a negative life where their parents maybe didn't get along or were trapped in poverty and didn't know what else to do but to medicate themselves. And so they remove these people. They put them in the group homes. They're unhappy. They run away. They meet dangerous people, and boom, something like this happens. But this is a little different. I mean, when a body gets taken apart, a child, a 14-year-old, 14 years old, man, and they take her parts apart, and nobody's talking about it? Nobody's trying to find this person or these people, whoever it is, whatever it is. This is a story that needs to be talked about and shared. So if you know, and if you share, find it, you can put the link, right, Armando, somehow?
Yeah, it's right there on the TikTok.
Yeah, so it's on that TikTok. And this was a good, I felt like this guy, said it all. He said, he could probably say better than I did, but we need to talk about the violence that occurred against someone, and we can't be desensitized to the fact that it was a child. just picture your child or anybody else's child who has someone in that age rate, that age, 14.
So it's the homie right here, Merciless Savegas.
He has good posts. You should follow him because, you know, he's a really good, he does great posts about, you know, Native American, California, the natives that were here before them, how they just went and slaughtered. Okay, so that's another good point. So this individual, we need to be very careful because we don't know if he's going to do it again and to another person. You know, take their body parts apart, put them in a trash bag and dump them somewhere. But what's interesting to me that I started reflecting on that made it interesting that people...
Even Ironhide says the missing whites even get Netflix documentaries. Yep,
yeah, exactly. They'll get
bro.
like a documentary. Like, yeah, believe me. And hopefully, you know, we ask a lot of the white culture to highlight our trauma. We have a lot of filmmakers out there. We have a lot of indigenous filmmakers out there. We have a lot of people of color filmmakers out there. We need to stop relying on, you know, there is never going to be a millionaire that's going to turn around and save his community. Millionaires are millionaires. They hang out with millionaires and they don't think about the poor people. You know, as an artist, one has to understand all levels of life. But when you start making millions of dollars, you forget about that part. So it's our job to highlight these things. It's our job to be creative, to highlight and make our own documentaries. And sometimes our own documentaries that come from our voices, that come from our filmmakers, are far more entertaining than people that are in corporate offices who feel like they want to exploit our story. Because I think that's what happens is that when we put it in the hands of other people and other producers, they just want to exploit and feed off of the energy of the sadness and the tragedy that our communities suffer from. Like as it's like a movie or something. But something really happened to this little girl. This isn't like an entertaining thing. This is more of a thing that a community who is around that area needs to be in high alert because there's a dangerous individual out there and hopefully he won't put his hands on another child. Because this one got mutilated. And I feel like no one's paying attention to it because I feel like U.S. culture, American culture,
well, I just think
has always highlighted the dismemberment of indigenous people.
Yeah, but I'm just thinking of because recently I've seen other viral videos of like some black girl getting kidnapped, murdered, Mexican girl getting kidnapped, murdered. I just think it's strange that she's native. That term native, I think it's already built into the YouTube and fucking Google algorithm to where it gets suppressed. I'm thinking that on that level. But of course the mainstream media would never cover it. But yeah, it's the white people that always get coverage with this shit. You know what I'm saying? I just think it's bizarre that something this brutal hasn't gone super viral yet. You feel me? And it makes sense with the administration seeing fucking the owner of Google and YouTube over there. And now Facebook, Zuckerberg, he's over there. So they're fucking doing everything that Trump wants them to do.
Right. But I'm not sure that what I'm trying to say is that I don't think people care. It doesn't go viral, nor does it get written about, nor do people come out and find the story because and it's a stretch. But America is used to mutilating Native Americans.
Yep.
They're used to scalping them and getting money for them, putting their, that's their culture. They've been mutilating Native Americans, people of Native descent to Turtle Island for 400 years, 500 years. this is why I don't feel like it's getting this wind and whirlwind of, oh my God, we got to see these, because they're used to seeing Native Americans be mutilated and no one care.
At best, that is a great story for the next Netflix documentary, bro. Like, let's be real. It's a brutal murder.
Yeah, it's.
But like you said, no one's going to pick it up.
It's a child. It's a child, man. It's a 14-year-old. And more than it being a sensation on Netflix or anything like that, the community of Arizona needs to be very aware of that area and that neighborhood. And we need to be more vigilant, because, people like that like to travel, and then they go into other towns and they go into other cities, and then now, boom, now you have another person. It may not be a Native American girl, but nevertheless, it was a child, man, a 14-year-old, and this should have caught national news. I'm really, really, really shocked that it didn't, because of the way she was treated and the way she was kind of discarded. But if America's used to Native Americans being mutilated, then, it's just another poor person, somebody.
That's exactly what it is, yeah.
Yeah, someone that didn't matter.
And no, but it just, and then another thing that kind of makes sense, he's like, yeah, and the only place I'm hearing this from, people who are covering her, are the people that are kind of involved in the indigenous community.
Yeah, because, Indian country is very lonely. And not that she's in the Indian country, but she's in Arizona, so there's a lot of reservations in that area. And I toured there with Elvu, so I kind of been to a few of them. But yeah, man, it's just, they don't feel like they matter. And no matter how severe the injury is or how severe they treated this poor young little girl, like, it just seems like America's just used to that kind of violence towards them. So why talk about it?
Now, Emily Pike, only 14 years.
And now I'm super convinced that, when Trump called that politician Pocahontas, it's just putting the knife deeper into the wound,
Right. Well, yeah, because, you don't use them as a reference or a point of making fun of someone else. Especially on that world stage. It's kind of like
for them,
it's
it's just a small Pocahontas that got murdered. Who cares? Right?
Yeah.
Like how he said, a good Indian is a dead Indian.
Well, it's just that I feel like the only reason you would talk about Native Americans is that they were put into reservations, but after that, you don't really get into their stories. Like, to them, there's like, she's just a poor little girl, and that poor little girl was a runaway, and she ran away, and they just killed her. I think that's not the point. Although it's horrible when they kill a child who's only 14 years old, it's the way they did it. It's what they did to her. That's the point. Dude, they took her arms off. They took her legs off or stuff like that. That kind of severity. I think they took her head off, right?
Yeah, and then they put, I guess, the pieces in
the
trash bags.
Into trash bags. Who knows if this was sparked by, someone who felt like, what, screw these guys. They don't, somebody not in the right frame of mind. But God forbid that it be somebody who's just targeting individuals who are 14 years old, who happen to be female. We'll know soon if it happens again and they put it in trash cans and they do the same exact thing. It's not so much that she was Native American. It was that she was 14 years old and they took her body parts apart. We need to be outraged about that kind of stuff. That stuff used to happen to us in the 1800s. As early as the 1800s, people were dismembered, hung, scalped. This is 2025.
And I'm sure the local community and the local Native community, they probably were hitting up, the news stations, ABC and MSNBC, CNN, shameful. Whoever opened up those emails and just ignored it, because it's like, isn't that a story? A little girl getting chopped up in pieces. That's a fucking story.
That's a crazy story.
Oh, but wait a minute.
That's
she's native?
national news.
She's native? Oh, fuck. Well, I might have to clear it with the bigwigs.
That's national news. That's national news. That's like serial killer stuff.
So what if a journalist did see it at CNN, they brought it up and they told her, yeah, we can't cover it. We can't give it the light of day. Why do you think?
Because they don't really matter. It's just some poor kid. It's some Indian girl who ran away. Oh, okay, cool. Nah, pass. We'll pass on that story. They don't really matter. It's not that she was native. The fact that she's native is horrible, because there's been a current events, missing indigenous women. There's a movement behind that, and this just adds to it. They've been taking our women and dismembering them, unaliving them, treating them bad. But man, when is it going to stop? Especially at this level, where you're dismembering things. It's a trauma. It's a trigger for me, because, it wasn't too long ago in the 1800s where this was normal. And that's what I'm trying to point out. Is it that normal that people just are, who cares about that story? It's a kid. It's a baby. It's a 14-year-old child who was taken apart, literally. And no one cares?
Well, Ironhide says, just like Summer Wells, a white girl and poor, but she got a documentary and was all over the news.
Yeah. This hasn't been in the news. Have you seen it in the news? I haven't seen it in the news.
Absolutely not.
I've not seen this in the news. Even though it's in Arizona, it doesn't matter. This is a horrible, horrible, horrible thing to happen to a child. I don't mean to exaggerate, but I don't know, man. Taking apart a little 14-year-old child, and it's just even worse that it's a Native American child, an Apache child. Are we that desensitized that that's just normal, right? Oh, well, yeah, that's normal. They all, every once in a while they'll take apart a little child.
They're all savages,
Every once in a while they'll take apart somebody. This is major. But I don't know, is it social media that's kind of drowning it out? Do you have to have
but that's the thing. For me, I haven't seen it on social media or even on YouTube. See, a story like that should have already been viral on YouTube. I just think these algorithms, bro, are intended to just completely ignore anything native.
Wow. That would be interesting. I don't know if that could be proven, but the way it was done 10 years ago, if they found out that, if the police, put in their network, someone was found dismembered, that would be on national news. I'm not sure if it's a racist thing. It's a poor Indian. We're not going to put it on the news. It's more about class thing. It's more like, you know what I really think is that. You know what I really think is when
Ironhide said the white girl, Summer White, she was white and poor. So see, she already got the card to get that Netflix documentary.
Yeah, right? She got the card. I don't know. I just think that nowadays, I guess maybe my best guess at it is that when the network looks at the story, they go, well, how many likes does it have? How many shares does it have? Oh, it only has,
Yeah, I think that's what they maybe different.
That's the only thing I could guess.
Yeah, there's a bottom line at CNN. They make money off of ads.
Right.
They don't want to run a native girl being murdered and then like these medicine companies, they don't want to sponsor shit like that.
Right, exactly. So,
Prozac doesn't want to be involved in shit like that.
More like where I just feel like, well, it doesn't have that many likes or it doesn't have that many shares. It's not really a big person or a big story. Where in fact, in the, before social media, this would be national news. This will be national news, even if it was just one person, even if it was just one little girl. Remember, she was a female. She was 14 years old. She was Native, and she was dismembered. It deserves to be talked about. That's why I'm talking about it. I wish I was a national, media outlet blasting it out 24/7, because God forbid it happens to another child. This is important news. It doesn't matter how many likes it has. It doesn't matter how many shares it has. Just share it, because we're trying to protect our children. This is taking a child apart is not, it shouldn't be normal. We shouldn't ignore it. We shouldn't just think that that's normal. It's cool. Oh yeah, that's cool. It should be like, whoa, grab your kid. Hey, bring out some network. Let's get the word out. Someone severely, there's no words for that. It's a child, and it's a female. That deserves attention.
Rest in peace, Emily Pike.
Yes.
As soon as I found out about this news, man, it shocked me, man, because it just pisses me off, bro, that the mainstream media is just at its all-time worst on credibility.
Well, it's an interesting time because, listening to the State of the Union yesterday, and seeing how the media it's all corporate. There's no journalism anymore. There's just people telling other people what to say and what side to be on. And really, we should all be collectively working together. And we should want journalists to go deep into a story and expose as much as they can. But we're not in that time right now. It seems like corporations are just doubling down on everything, because they have so much money, they have so much accumulated wealth. A lot of people made a lot of money when things shut down. And now they're using that money to put into control systems for the population. We need to be aware of that.
Shout out to the chat that's like all over it. Like the chat's shocked too, bro. They're absolutely disgusted.
Well, and we could do our little part. You could do your little post. I'm doing a whole show about it. We need to work together as a collective. We have to care about ourselves. We can't rely on others to care about us. The minute we can look in the mirror and start caring about ourselves and putting attention to our stories and putting our talented filmmakers to create their own little documentaries and stories about what happened to this young lady or whatever story that comes from our communities. We can't wait for, big corporations or Netflix or, Prime Video or whoever it is to come out and go, oh, we care about what your community's going through. Because they don't. They just want to exploit the emotion out of it. They want to capitalize on that story and go, oh, look how sad it was. Because it doesn't really change for the family. They still have to go through the trauma of who they lost and what happened to that person. So, although Netflix will bring attention to it, it doesn't take away the fact that someone really, really, really took advantage of a child and hurt her in that way.
Again, rest in peace, Emily Pike. Yeah. Horrible tragedy. Anyone watching, tuning in the chat, share the post. Go on TikTok. Go on that dude's account. I believe his name is name? Merciless Savages. Savages. No, Merciless Savages.
There you go.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Merciless Savages. I just read wrong. I'm fucked up in the head right now.
No worries, man.
Emily Pike was a 14-year-old and Apache girl living in Mesa, Arizona, found dismembered on Valentine's Day, bro.
That's crazy.
Surely it was a piece of shit that, you know, I don't know. I'm assuming it was a fucking weirdo that I guess was into fucking minors and, you know, I'm going way off course, but maybe, you know, he wanted to get with her and shit.
I'm sure there's...
And he fucking murdered her.
I'm sure there's more to this story.
Yeah, there is.
I'm sure there's a lot to it, you know, but the point is that we're bringing attention to it because of what they did to her, how old she was. She's a female. This has been happening in the indigenous community for a couple years now. And it's not normal for individuals to be dismembered, especially children, especially little girls. That's not normal. It's not something that we should just brush to the side because she comes from a poor neighborhood or she comes from a reservation or she comes from a group home. She was alive. She deserved to be protected and loved. Unfortunately, we live in a time where things get distorted. But we have to be aware of our surroundings and know that if something like that happened in a 50-mile radius, people should be being very, very overprotective about their loved ones. Because someone was taken apart, and it was a child, and it was a little girl. That's a big deal.
Yo, again, I can't express myself more. I found out this story was disgusting to me.
Right.
But again and again and again, rest in peace, Emily Pike.
Absolutely.
Man, bro, Zero, like when I saw this story, bro, I was shocked, man. I was just like, this is the most disturbing shit I've seen in a while.
I mean, this is like you know, Jeffrey Dahmer. You know,
it is. That's what reminded me. The worst of the worst.
This is like Richard Ramirez. I guess maybe, you know, we haven't had that type of murders, I guess. But this is a little girl, man. And a little girl got dismembered. And it wasn't national news.
This might be the first podcast that's covering this story.
I mean,
like, let's be real, you know?
Yeah. But it's unfortunate. And I don't know. I just felt like it needed to be brought to, you know, the Native American, the LA Natives community, because I know this community can organize and disseminate information to the community that's relevant to. And even if it isn't relevant to that community, we need to bring more eyes towards the protection of our indigenous women. I think it's missing indigenous. Can you look it up, Mondo? It's the missing murdered indigenous women. It's a long one. And
it's even the movement with the red hand, right?
Yeah, exactly.
The red hand?
Missing indigenous. Oh, man, I don't know why I can't get it right.
Yeah, the missing and murdered indigenous women's movement.
There you go. Yeah, let's bring attention to that because it's not normal that what our women are going to go through another 400 years of this stuff. It's time for us to be aware and protective of our women, especially our little girls. You know,
14 years old, man.
14 years old, didn't deserve.
Shame on CNN. Shame on Fox News.
Yeah.
Shame on MSNBC.
We're not
and
covering
shame
this
on
story.
all you fucking scumbags that don't want to cover this. But hey, if she was a fucking white girl,
Yeah, it would have been.
she
all
would
over
get
the-
a Netflix documentary.
Yeah, it would have been a motion picture. She would have got so much stuff. But you know, they'll take care of their own, and I think we should start learning how to do that. We should start learning how to tell our own story because it comes better. It comes out better. You know, when we rely on others to tell our story and to exploit our story. It just never turns out good. You know, this little girl meant something to someone, and you know, I felt like we need to expose this story as best as we can and bring awareness to protecting our women. You know, if you see something happening to someone, don't stay quiet, man. It's time for us to start protecting these individuals. Because imagine if someone was watching this man, a grown adult, walking with a 14-year-old, mistreating her, or maybe had a feeling that he was going to mistreat her. Maybe we could have saved her life. And not that we're here to save everybody's life, but I don't know. Our women are important, and we need to put an emphasis in protecting them. It's important that they stay safe. They're the ones that carry our future. We need to protect them.
So I'm running a video right here that you sent me. It says the bumblebee doesn't fly, it levitates. That's fucking crazy.
All right. So now, before we get into that, I feel like, you know, bringing up this young lady who was dismembered, you know, I thought that in our time right now, we're dealing with certain energies. And these energies become, you know, when you look at the energy on a macro level, then there are frequencies. And I saw this one post about bees, about how they fly. And they really don't use their wings to fly. They use these small canals leave inside them. And when the wing hits a certain frequency, they're able to tap into a certain magnetic frequency and thus fly. And I want to bring that to people's attention because we too have canals in our body. They're called the ear holes, right? So let's play the bee thing, and we'll end it with this.
The bumblebee, when he starts to beat his wings, when he starts to flap his wings, there's a little cavity, a hollow cavity next to the larynx inside his system that's hollow. And when he beats his wings, he starts to resonate this energy, and it goes back and forth, just similar to a guitar strumming on one side of the room and hitting the same chord on the other side of the room, or somebody hitting a high C and breaking a crystal. It's the same thing. It's resonance. And he said what they do, they resonate. And when they resonate, they eventually reach the resonance of the field around them. And he says once this bumblebee hits that resonant frequency of its surroundings, it becomes a free agent. It creates a magnetic bubble around itself, and it can go anywhere it wants. And I said, well, that's not in any of the science books. He said, I know. You probably never see it there either, but that's what happens. They'll discover it someday and bring it out, that it's just we have a conventional way of doing things, and then we have a natural way of doing things, and they're totally different. They're diametrically opposed.
The important point here is the bees. As you've heard, the bumblebee shouldn't really be able to fly. Those wings are way too small to lift that chubby little body off the ground. In fact, it's a bit of a conundrum also for the mainstream scientists. They can travel in perfectly straight lines for long distances without any deviation, even during a howling crosswind. Because of the resonant frequencies produced by the vibration of their wings, they create a bubble in the ether, protecting them from any outside interference.
Dude, that is something I would have never expected, Zero.
The reason I'm bringing it up is because once it hits a certain frequency in its surroundings, it creates this it taps into this magnetic field, boom, which allows it to become free and be able to fly anywhere it needs to. From the flapping of the wings and the hollow cavity it has in its body, it taps into certain frequencies. to be able to control its environment and fly anywhere it needs to go. I brought this point up because we have ear holes in our body, but we don't have wings. And I'm not telling people that we're going to create this frequency where we're going to start flying, but we do have an ability to hone in on frequency. Unfortunately, this young lady, maybe in her life, what was told to her was in a low frequency, which led her to low frequency energy, which ultimately ended her life in such a horrible way. Nature teaches us so much things in life. I felt like sharing the bee's ability to fly due to frequency and defying physics, creating a tapping into the ether. How can we do that as humans? How can we resonate something where we tap into the ether and create a bubble that protects us? We'll see you next Wednesday. Plaso Kamatli, Ometeo, Donansim.
Yo, shout out to the chat. Shout out to the views. The chat's lit. The view's lit. Make sure you guys subscribe to the channel. Like the video. Share the video. Comment on the video. We'll see you guys next week.